Additionally, but increasingly boisterous groups said that she shied away from details because they would disclose relationships she wasn't willing to. The rumors of pregnancy start there. As a result of silence rather than as a declared fact or verified detail, the words she never spoke, the timing she never clarified, and the dynamics he depicted but never really understood were the internet. Nobody is aware. This is not supported by anything in the transcript. However, the more she eschews clarity, the more viewers interpret her omissions as solutions. Near the conclusion of this section of the chronology, his voice becomes more steady, but it's more unsettling because of the stability. It's not shouting, he's not flailing, he is narrating. Between their two accounts feels less like uncertainty and more like the start of an unraveling, because of her calm delivery and her disjointed explanation. And the question becomes louder and heavier in the void between their stories with each detail he repeats. Why does every version seal the portion she won't utter? Nothing more perfect. Evening, the tension persists even after the clip concludes. It hovers in the space like an unidentifiable draft. He reclines for a moment to balance the weight of what he's saying rather than to disassociate himself from it, because he now switches from the timeline to the portion of the night that, according to him, changed everything. At this point, people begin repeating the video hundreds of times, not because of what he thinks she did to him, but rather because of what he claims to have seen between her and Mendeecees. He begins slowly, almost grudgingly, as though he is aware that the next sentence will spark a global outcry. His tone becomes more intense, and abruptly the atmosphere in the It feels colder in the room. He claims that their interactions never made him feel at ease. Not just that evening, not just once. He talks about how she sat on Mendeecees during a music video. He talks about how Mendeecees continued to show up wherever they went. He talks about a trend he saw a long time ago. Tamar ever gave a public speech, and none of this is spoken in a gossipy manner. It's sounding why he's been thinking about a narrative for months while she feigned. There was nothing to doubt. This discomfort serves as the story's emotional core. The next time he returns is the automobile is the one video. That causes the internet to freeze. She wasn't sitting by herself, he claims. She wasn't sleeping. She leaned her head on the window. Quiet. He claims that while he was seated just inches away, she was sitting on Mendeecees' lap and kissing him. He says, paraphrasing, that he felt uneasy when Tamar sat on Mendeecees' lap in the automobile and kissed her. Clip of the Week commentary networks cut it up into thread-long analyses, slow it down, and repeat it. Viewers begin to conjecture about everything. Her phrasing during the interview and her body language. The way she shied away, the way she insisted that she had no idea what transpired. And the hypotheses continue from there, because if he is telling the truth and she was already seeing Mendeecees at the time, her ambiguous responses during the interview begin to seem more like deliberate concealment than uncertainty. The kind that, without outright lying, maintains a secret. At this point, online rumors of a pregnancy start to emerge. She alluded to something when she discussed the aftermath. But it wasn't a verified assertion or something she spoke directly, without providing background information on what preceded it. Once more, the transcript contains no evidence to support it. She doesn't express it. However, the darkest, most dramatic possibility begins to fill the void on the internet. What if she wasn't ambiguous because she had forgotten? What if she was being evasive because she was defending someone or something? At that point, viewers also begin to make connections with this new theory. He claims that he decided to go home since, in his words, he desired solitude, which is why he didn't go upstairs with her. He doesn't know what transpired after she went upstairs, but the others she was with do. The tone of the story completely shifts when he suggests that Mendeecees and his friend were present when whatever happened with her teeth took place, because at that moment, her account of what happened is not only lacking, but also irreconcilable with his. She claimed to have woken up in a pool of blood. He claimed she turned down an ambulance. She claimed to be unaware of what had occurred. He was claims to have been with individuals. All right, she came across as someone who was hurt and caught off guard. He portrays himself as the culprit behind a circumstance. Hey, he wasn't there for nothing. Neatly lined up. Additionally, for theories, especially theories, the more it deviates from reality. About why she refrained from providing any details at all. She went out and stated she nearly died, but that was before I handled it. 7,000 people were waiting in the pass. They were waiting for me to tell them what had happened because they knew we had been together the previous evening. Happened to the lady, I answered. The viewer's conjecture has taken on a life of its own. In the narrative, she may have concealed more than she into threads with thousands of comments. Some claim that she downplayed her relationship with Mendeecees since the deeper connection by the small murmuring about women who steer clear of specifics when attempting to conceal something intimate, sentimental, or irreversible. It's just conjecture. However, are too reconciled, turns into, and just the storm becomes more intense when he starts discussing how she represented him on the internet. Her framing made him appear to be at fault. He claims that she allowed that the internet is crazy, he said. And when he claims that all she needed to do was tell others to stop bothering him, she still declined. Confusion gives way to betrayal in the story because it creates a fresh tension. That sentence becomes the emotional center of this part. Why didn't she change the story if she didn't want him to be held accountable? Why would she want him to be held accountable? Given that this a portion of the narrative tightens and the room's excitement increases. Defending himself against a rumor, he's exposing the psychological effects of being silent. His stillness, hers, and the quiet in between their renditions of the evening. The internet is now starting to formulate one non-existent. If Tamar's relationship with Mendeecees was genuinely shallow, why did it sound like she was afraid to explain every detail she omitted? That query serves as a cliffhanger that propels the story into the following chapter, where her omissions, his clarity, and the theories on the internet combine to create something far more combustible than either of them expected. He pauses for a moment before continuing, and there's something that sets that pause apart from the others. It's calculation, not hesitancy. As if he is aware that the next segment of his narrative would be analyzed in 100 different ways. He is aware that the internet won't let it go once he says it aloud. He's correct, too, because the entire story takes on a deeper, or psychological weight when he moves from narrating the events to analyzing the emotional fallout. He starts at the beginning of the media frenzy. He explains how her posts, in which she claimed to have nearly died after waking up in a pool of caused alarm on social media. He describes how people quickly made the connection to him by only because they had spent the earlier part of the evening together. In a paraphrase, he mentions Tamar posting on social media that she nearly died and woke up in blood. He sounds more confused than angry. For example, he finds it incomprehensible that a vague post might turn into allegations. However, logic is not the foundation of the internet. It is powered by emotion. Anyone even asked questions, her framing set off a communal response. And he is most bothered by that. He claims not to. She merely failed to resolve the confusion, allowing it to worsen. He remembers that thousands of people waited for him to go live, anticipating that he would disclose some sinister reality. Before he had spoke a word, everyone thought he was the bad guy. Not only was he dragged, but he was also dissected, misquoted, misconstrued, and made into the adversary of a narrative for which he was not even present. And that's when yet another crucial point. He informs the audience that someone in attendance that evening offered to summon an ambulance, and Tamar declined. This becomes one of the story's most glaring paradoxes. She was on the verge of death on one side. However, he claims that she refused medical assistance. The internet quickly picks up on the discrepancy. People start to wonder if the harshness of her public statements aligned with the choices made that evening. Others question whether her refusal of medical attention was an effort to evade attention to the circumstances surrounding her injuries rather than the injury itself. Of course, these are speculations. No confirmation. On social media, however, theories serve as the glue that fills in all the gaps. Additionally, he now clarifies that he attempted to persuade her to change the story after she published her dramatic post, which is why the missing details kept stacking up. All right, depressing. When she did, she erased it. The following day, that eraser turns into a riddle in and of itself. And fascination with those, it indicates that there was more at risk than she acknowledged. Why remove a clarification? Unless you weren't totally at ease with the reality of it. Why delete something that might have shielded a friend? His inquiries linger in the room like shadows, yet he makes sense. When he discusses being perceived as condescending, the tension increases. He clarifies that he called her that lady because he already had a suspicion that she wasn't being completely honest. Not out of contempt, but rather out of incredulity and a feeling that some aspects of the narrative didn't make sense. And this portion revolves upon that disbelief. He starts adding detail after detail about how the story was constructed after the fact rather than what actually happened. She likes chaos, he acknowledges. He claims drama appeals to her. He suggests that she has the ability to control an internet story in a manner that others do not. Additionally, when he claims that she enjoys the media ecstasy, the charge weighs heavily on the audience, since it is about intention rather than events. Because it might not have been an accident for her to leave the story if she likes the attention her stories garner. And that's exactly where the pregnancy theory starts to gain popularity among viewers. Not because he brings up Kate or because she affirms it, but rather because her silence, her refusal to clarify the account, her inconsistencies, and her emotional distance while talking about the night allow for interpretations that she never explicitly rejects. If she downplayed her relationship with Mendeecees, if he recounted something far more personal and she presented the evening as a friendly gathering, if she highlighted some things while omitting others, the question she never answered was raised by viewers. Did she have anything more to conceal beyond the events of the at night? Something private, something sentimental, something that cannot be undone. Another abrupt turn occurs within that expanding conjecture. He claims that her acts did not. He claims that the only individual who actually suffered was Dineva and Yend. When he says that, the comment sections blow up, completely altering how the story is framed. All of a sudden, he and Tamar aren't the only ones at odds. His energy isn't silence, is.